2.5 Men, 2003. Cast then, and now 2026. Shocking updates and tragic loss. When 2.5 Men premiered on CBS in September 2003, nobody could have predicted it would become one of the defining sitcoms of its era, running for 12 seasons and turning a single fictional Malibu beach house into a cultural landmark. The show built its humor around dysfunction, a freeloading brother, a womanizing bachelor, a confused kid caught in the middle, and a rotating cast of women, neighbors, and family members who made every episode feel like a small explosion waiting to happen. More than 2 decades later, the laughter is still alive in syndication, but the people who created that laughter have lived entire lifetimes since the camera stopped rolling in 2015. Some found new creative peaks. Some walked away from the spotlight entirely. Some battled very public struggles. And sadly, one of the show's most beloved performers is no longer with us. In this video, we're taking a deep, honest look at where the cast of 2.5 Men stands in 2026. The triumphs, the heartbreaks, and everything in between. Jon Cryer was the emotional glue of 2.5 Men, playing the perpetually broke, perpetually humiliated chiropractor Alan Harper for all 12 seasons. Born in April 1965, Cryer was already a familiar face from his 1980s film work, including his breakout role in Pretty in Pink. But Alan Harper introduced him to an entirely new generation and earned him 2 Primetime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series. What made Alan work wasn't just the constant punchlines about his divorce, his finances, or his living situation. It was Cryer's ability to make a man who never seemed to win feel oddly lovable anyway. Since the show ended, Cryer has stayed remarkably busy. He took on a role of Lex Luthor in the CW's Supergirl, earning praise for bringing both menace and dark comedy to the iconic villain, and has continued picking up guest roles, voice work, and stage projects. He has also spoken candidly in interviews and his own writing about the chaotic atmosphere behind the scenes of 2.5 Men, offering fans a more complete picture of what those years were really like. Now in his early 60s, Cryer remains one of the most respected and consistently working actors from the show's original cast. Often mentioned whenever talk of a possible reunion or revival comes up. His legacy as Alan Harper endures because he turned a character built on bad luck into one of television's most strangely endearing underdogs. Concetta Farrell played Berta, the brutally honest, no-nonsense housekeeper who somehow became the moral center of the Harper household despite, or perhaps because of her complete lack of patience for anyone's nonsense. Born in 1943, Farrell already had decades of acclaimed stage, film, and television work behind her by the time she joined the cast, including an Emmy-nominated role on L.A. Law. On 2.5 Men, Berta's sharp tongue became one of the show's most reliable sources of laughs, but Farrell gave the character a warmth underneath the sarcasm that made her feel like family rather than hired help. Sadly, Concetta Farrell passed away in October 2020 at the age of 77, following complications after cardiac arrest. Her death was met with an outpouring of tributes from castmates and fans alike, many of whom describe her as the heart of the show's set as much as its scripts. Even now, years later, Berta remains one of the most quoted and beloved characters from the series, and Farrell's body of work, spanning theater, film, and decades of television, continues to be celebrated by those who remember her as one of the most genuinely funny and generous performers of her generation. No cast member story is more closely tied to the public narrative around 2.5 Men than Charlie Sheen, who played the womanizing, hard-partying jingle writer Charlie Harper for the show's first 8 seasons. Born in September 1965, Sheen was already a major film star before the series, but Charlie Harper turned him into one of the highest-paid actors on television. His on-screen chemistry with Cryer and the show's irreverent humor helped make 2.5 Men a ratings powerhouse for nearly a decade. Sheen's departure from the show in 2011, following a very public personal and professional unraveling, became one of the most talked-about moments in television history, and the years that followed brought additional headlines, health revelations, and ongoing scrutiny of his personal life. In more recent years, Sheen has worked toward a quieter, more reflective chapter. A 2025 Netflix documentary series gave him the opportunity to speak candidly about his addiction struggles, his choices during that turbulent period, and the toll it took on the people around him, including Cryer. Sheen has publicly acknowledged that hearing his former co-star's perspective affected him deeply, and reports have indicated that he and series creator Chuck Lorre have repaired their relationship after years of public tension, even reportedly working together again on new projects. Now in his 60s, Sheen's story remains one of the most dramatic arcs of any actor from the 2000 sitcom era, a cautionary tale, a comeback narrative, and a reminder of how quickly fortunes can change in Hollywood, all rolled into one. Holland Taylor brought icy elegance and razor-sharp wit to Evelyn Harper, the wealthy, emotionally distant mother of Charlie and Alan, whose visits to the beach house usually meant trouble for everyone involved. Born in 1943, Taylor was already a celebrated stage and screen actress with an Emmy win for The Practice before joining 2.5 Men, and she brought that pedigree to every scene, turning Evelyn's cutting one-liners into some of the show's most memorable moments. What set Taylor's performance apart was her refusal to play Evelyn as a cartoon. There was always a glimpse of loneliness and vulnerability underneath the fur coats and withering remarks. After the series ended, Taylor's career continued to flourish. She earned widespread acclaim and award nominations for her starring role in the Netflix series Hollywood, and she has continued working steadily in television and film, often playing sharp, formidable women who command every scene they're in. Now in her early 80s, Taylor remains one of the most admired veteran actresses of her generation, with a career that spans decades and continues to grow. Evelyn Harper's legacy endures not just because of her insults, but because Taylor found the humanity hiding behind them. When 2.5 Men needed to replace its lead after Charlie Sheen's departure, the show turned to Ashton Kutcher, who joined the cast in 2011 as billionaire software developer Walden Schmidt. Born in 1978, Kutcher was already a major star thanks to that 70s show and a string of successful films, and his arrival shifted the entire tone of the series. Walden was naive, heartbroken, and emotionally lost despite his enormous wealth, which gave the show a different kind of comedic engine for its final 4 seasons. After 2.5 Men ended, Kutcher leaned heavily into his business and technology interests, becoming a well-known venture capital investor through his firm Sound Ventures, with early investments in companies that later became household names. He has also remained involved in philanthropic work focused on combating human trafficking and child exploitation through the organization he co-founded. While his acting output has slowed compared to his peak sitcom years, Kutcher remains a highly visible public figure whose career has expanded well beyond Hollywood. Now approaching 50, his journey from teen heartthrob to sitcom lead to tech investor stands as one of the more unusual career transitions of anyone connected to the show. And Walden's arc, a man with everything except peace of mind, still resonates with fans who remember the show's later seasons fondly. Maren Hinkle played Judith, Alan's icy, exhausted ex-wife, whose every interaction with him crackled with the resentment of marriage that never should have happened. Born in 1966, Hinkle brought a controlled, dry comedic energy to Judith that made the character's bitterness feel earned rather than cartoonish. Audiences could believe these two people had once loved each other, and could also believe exactly why they no longer did. After 2.5 Men, Hinkle's career reached new heights with her role as Rose Weissman on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, for which she earned widespread critical praise and award recognition for her comic timing and emotional depth. The role allowed her to show a very different side of her range, playing a character whose warmth and eccentricity contrasted sharply with Judith's coldness. Now in her late 50s, Hinkle continues to work steadily across television, and her post-2.5 Men career has arguably introduced her to an even wider audience than the sitcom did. Judith's legacy endures as one of television's sharpest portraits of post-divorce resentment, brought to life by an actress who clearly had far more range than the role initially suggested. Melanie Lynskey's Rose was one of 2.5 Men's strangest and most beloved recurring characters. Charlie's neighbor, whose unsettling devotion to him bordered on obsession, but was played with such warmth that audiences rooted for her anyway. Born in 1977, Lynskey was already an accomplished film actress with credits stretching back to her teenage years, but Rose became one of her most recognizable television roles, appearing in dozens of episodes across the series' run. Since then, Lynskey's career has reached a new level of acclaim through her starring role in the acclaimed Showtime series Yellow Jackets, which has earned her some of the best reviews of her career and introduced her to a massive new audience drawn to prestige television. Her ability to shift between dark drama and offbeat comedy has made her one of the most respected character actresses working today. Now in her late 40s, Linsky stands as one of the clearest examples of a Two and a Half Men cast member whose career genuinely expanded after the show, proving that Rose's quiet strangeness was only a small piece of a much larger and more impressive body of work. Courtney Thorne-Smith joined Two and a Half Men in its later seasons as Lindsay, the single mother who became Alan's longest and most chaotic romantic relationship on the show. Born in 1967, Thorne-Smith was already well known to television audiences from her earlier roles on Melrose Place, Ally McBeal, and According to Jim, and she brought that experience to a character whose relationship with Alan was defined by arguments, breakups, and an undeniable, exhausting chemistry. Lindsay gave the later seasons of the show some of their most grounded emotional beats, even amid the usual chaos. Since Two and a Half Men wrapped, Thorne-Smith has continued working in television, often returning to comedic roles that played her strengths in timing and warmth. She has also been open in interviews about stepping back at times to focus on her family, choosing a more balanced approach to her career, rather than chasing constant high-profile roles. Now in her late 50s, Thorne-Smith remains a familiar and well-liked presence to multiple generations of sitcom fans, and Lindsay's rocky relationship with Alan is still remembered as one of the show's most human late-era storylines. Jennifer Taylor played Chelsea, one of the few women on Two and a Half Men, who genuinely seemed capable of getting through to Charlie Harper, challenging him to consider commitment in ways he had always avoided. Born in 1972, Taylor brought a grounded warmth to the role that made Chelsea feel like a real obstacle to Charlie's lifestyle, rather than just another guest star passing through the beach house. Her relationship with Charlie became one of the more emotionally significant arcs of the show's middle seasons, hinting at the possibility that the character could change, even if he ultimately never fully did. Ryan Stiles brought a unique kind of cheerful confusion to Two and a Half Men as Dr. Herb Melnick, Judith's second husband and Alan's accidental friend despite being, technically, his romantic rival. Born in 1959, Stiles was already a beloved figure in comedy thanks to his decades on Whose Line Is It Anyway, where his improvisational skills and physical comedy made him a fan favorite on both the British and American versions of the show. On Two and a Half Men, Herb's good-natured cluelessness made him one of the few genuinely decent people in the Harper family's orbit, and Stiles